Good morning. I hope you are doing so good this morning. We're excited to be with you. You know, one of the things I love about summer is I have realized that summer is for relationships. That, you know, when I was a kid, I loved summertime because, you know, we didn't have an alarm clock and we, you know, ate the cereal watching The Price is Right. But you know what I really loved was I loved the idea that there was no schedule for the time that I could spend with people. And this summer, I hope that you find the same thing. I know in our house, we are really, really looking forward to our family vacations. We have a couple of vacations planned. We've got one with our family. We're gonna head down to the river. I also have one with our friends. So you know what, if you're watching this morning, where are you going on vacation? I know last year was so crazy with COVID that there was so many of us who didn't get to go on vacation. So let us know, are you going on vacation this year? And where are you headed? And you know what, if you're not going on vacation, that's okay. Just say hi. Let us know where you are watching from this morning. Are you watching from your kitchen? Are you watching from your couch? Wherever it is, just let us know and say hi. We have a great service plan. We are in week 4 of our Picture Perfect series, and it is a parenting series. And while everybody has a family, I love it, the fact that this series is all about relationships. And so whether you have grown kids or don't have any kids, you can get something out of this series. And I know that if you're watching this morning, that God has something for you. So stick around, listen to the message, and you know what? While the message is going on, let us know. Let us know what it is that God says to you during the message. All right, I'll see you afterwards.
Good morning, Rock Point. Why don't y'all stand and join us this morning?
You before us. Sing it out. You are stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows. You win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows. You win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows. You win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Amen. It's so great to be with you guys this morning. I'm Jamie. I'm the worship pastor at Liberty Hill. So it's great to be able to share the morning with you guys.
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. Now every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Sing it with me. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's
All right, well, hey, good morning. Yes, good morning. My name is John Evans. I'm one of the pastors here. Y'all can go ahead and have a seat. Just want to take a second and welcome everyone here in person and also online. We are kicking off summer. Hopefully you have your summer plans figured out, some vacations happening. Kids, it's great to be out of school. And so we're so excited about all the things happening here at Rock Point Church over the summer. So you're going to have to stay tuned for all of that. But real quick, just want to welcome everybody in the building and also online who are here for the first time or watching for the first time. And we'd sure like to know that you are with us, and we have a real easy way for you to let us know that. We've got a key word for you to text to the phone number 512-710-2323. And that just lets us know that you are with us, and it gives us the opportunity to connect, hear a little bit more about you, how you found Rock Point, and say hello. Also, we have a way to connect if this isn't your first time. We've got a QR code, and this will just let us know how you're doing. This will let us know how we can help you take a next step. Maybe you've moved. You can change your info there as well. There's a place there for you to share prayer requests, and we love the opportunity to pray for you as a staff on Monday mornings. So we are in week 4 of our Picture Perfect series, and we are introducing an app to our church for those of you with children. It's a free app. You can download it in the App Store. It sets up a bio for your kids, and all through the week, it gives you pointers and ways to connect and help your children grow spiritually, and it's a great way to connect with your kids. And so each week, we're highlighting something from that app through a video, and so we have a video that we want to share with you. Go ahead and check it out.
Today, we're going to be talking about another moment you guys can have this summer with your kids. We've talked about all kinds of incredible moments that maybe you have to drag your kids into this summer. This one, I promise, you are not going to have to drag your kids into. You may have to drag yourself into this moment. What am I talking about? Well, here's the deal. Every summer, your kids get into something new, whatever that may be. It seems like every summer there's something else new that my kids are really into, whether that be a new vlogger on YouTube for my teenage girls, whether that be a new type of toy or game that my son is into. Things constantly rotate. And most of the summers, I'm just gonna let them enjoy that part of their little world. But what if, just for this summer, you guys decided to lean into those things that your kids are into a little bit more than you normally do? Here's an example. This summer, that musical came. This is the Greatest Showman. You guys know what I'm talking about. And my kids were driving me crazy because they were listening to it 24/7. Listen, I like the movie, but I didn't know every word to that musical. But you know what I did for my daughters? I memorized every word to the first song on the record, the very first one. And when my daughters got into the car and they plugged in their device and they cranked up This Is the Greatest Show, guess who knew every word to that song? Yeah, me, yours truly. And they were floored that I was singing louder than them, and I secretly did this. And do you know what that did for our relationship? It took my 14 and 15-year-old daughter and myself, and it's not like there were miles between us, but it brought us so much closer, because we do believe this at Parent Cue. We must be fighting for our kids' hearts constantly, and that's what we're asking you guys to do. We believe when you fight for your kids' hearts and you get into what they're into this summer, it's gonna really tighten up your family unit.
Why don't y'all stand and join us?
Days may be darkest, but your light is greater. You light our way, God, you light our way. When evil is rising, your just you are love.
Thank you so much for singing with me this morning. You can have a seat.
White eyes, big dreams, made from all them memories. When the sea covers me, pull me out. When I'm up in the clouds, catch me on my way back down. Family, this is my family. This is my family.
Well, good morning. How are you? It's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. It's great to see you right here. It's great to see you online at our Liberty Hill location. It's just good to be together today. So thanks so much for being a part of that. So look, before we start today, I want to ask you to do something. It doesn't matter whether you're watching at home, whether you're right here in the room, or wherever you may be. Would you just grab your phone real quick? And if you have Facebook, would you just go there? We're live right now, right? Because you're watching us out there. If you have Facebook, if you have YouTube and you're watching that, would you just go and either check in or would you just share this? And let me tell you why as you're doing that, right? There's a big reason why. Just jump on, just go to Rock Point, look for it. It's the one with the green logo. You'll see it. Let me tell you why. I just think there's something today that needs to be heard far and wide. It's something that Julie and I have struggled with. It's something that I think every parent struggles with, no matter how old your kids are. And I think it just needs to go far and wide today. And so I want to ask you, would you just take a moment to share that wherever you are, whatever your platform, just get it out there, because sometime this week, the right person's going to hear it at the right time. And I believe there's something here for every person who calls themselves a parent. So let's start with this. When our kids were young, when Julie and I just had a couple of kids at the time, in fact, we were waiting on our second to be born, and our first, we just had the one. But when they were young, here's what we did. We only had 3 rules in our home. And parents, did you get that? There were 3 rules in our home. We didn't just figure that out. We learned that from someone way smarter than us. But there were just 3 rules in our home. And I want to tell you what the rules were. All right? So here they were. Here's the rules. Honor your parents. Don't lose self-control. Don't tell a lie. Now, honoring your parents, here was the deal. Julie and I just had to observe some really great families. And what we had found is that we concluded after watching them that if our kids were to honor their parents and Julie and I were to honor each other, that hopefully our kids would learn honor of other people and honor of each other. And we just discovered, get this, we discovered through the years that honoring mom in the home is like a foundational rule, because that was really important to us that our 2 sons learned how to show honor and respect to women. Now, here was the second one. Don't lose self-control. Here's the deal. Nothing good can happen when you're out of control. So when your kids are throwing fits, throwing things, screaming, slamming things around, hitting others to be able to get their way, can I tell you that on the other side of being a kid, when you become an adult, all of those things lead to jail time. Don't lose self-control. And then we said, don't tell a lie. And this was super important to us. And as I explained to our kids, we don't tell lies because if you tell a lie, it breaks trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't have a relationship. And that was the reason. And if our kids had heard it once, they had heard it 1,000 times, the worst thing you can do is tell a lie. Just tell the truth. So I want to welcome you to this next episode of our series entitled Picture Perfect. So if you're a parent, if you're about to be a parent, if you hope to be a parent, maybe you're helping another parent, maybe you're watching your own kids parent, let me just tell you, this series is absolutely for you. If you haven't caught what we've talked about so far, I hope you'll go back and catch up. But basically, this is for anybody who is feeling the weight and the responsibility of equipping an infant or a child or a teenager or a student for the rest of their life. But as I pointed out in week 1, when it comes to good examples of family and parenting, unfortunately, the Bible's not really all that helpful and not even encouraging for that matter. On the other hand, when it comes to examples like real world examples of family dysfunction, the Bible is actually your best place to go look for it. And as we said last time, thankfully, Jesus and the authors of the New Testament gave us the foundation and the application for being great parents. And look, although Jesus never directly talked about parenting, he actually laid the foundation for parenting whenever he laid the foundation for what followers of Jesus' behavior should look like. And he did this when he issued what he called his new command. Let me tell you what his new command is. Here it is. His new command was, love others as Jesus loves you. That's his new command. All the rules that you had to take and be a part of before, all those 630 something rules that you were following in religion, all those go away. Love others as Jesus has loved you. And so the way forward for us parents is actually embedded in this command. And Jesus wasn't talking specifically to parents when he commanded us to love as he loved. And so fortunately, the Apostle Paul comes along and he gives us some handles on love. Some love handles. See, they're not all bad, right? Because what Paul did is he explained, what does it actually look like to apply the Jesus brand of love in the real world? And he says, here's how love behaves under pressure. Here's how love behaves at home. And Paul's most famous explanation of what the Jesus brand of love actually looks like and behaves like is found in his letter to the Christians living in Corinth. We call that the letter of 1 Corinthians. So look, if you were with us last time, you'll remember we only got 3 words in, right? And the 3 words were just simply this: love is patient. And then we got all stalled out there because oftentimes, isn't it true, it feels like parenting kind of falls apart with that right there. And so Paul has a lot more to say that pertains directly to parenting. And so here we go. Love is patient. And then up next, as you can see, is love is kind. Now, that might sound a little soft, even weak. But let me say it this way. Kindness is actually an expression of strength. In fact, here's what I want you to know. That unkindness is weakness. Unkindness demonstrates a lack of self-control, and we're back to rule number 2 in the house. If you are unkind, you have lost control of yourself. Something else is now controlling you. Unkindness is a lack of self-awareness. Unkind people oftentimes don't even know they're unkind. And look, I've shared this before, but honestly, I think that this is so relevant in a discussion on parenting, maybe more than anywhere else. Here's what's so important, is that kindness is choosing to loan someone your strength rather than reminding them of their weakness. Now, parents, here's the thing. Your kids already know where and when they failed. They don't need you to remind them of their failures, especially by you, Mom, because your words weigh about 100 pounds. And dads, your words weigh about 500 pounds. And I don't know why, but they do. So loan your kids your strength and then let the world around them remind them of their weaknesses. Because just like you, your kids wake up every single day wondering if they're gonna measure up and if they've got what it takes. Every day, the world that they live in makes them doubt themselves. So when they fall short, when they don't measure up, When they mess up, parents, find a way to side with them, not against them. Loan them your strength. You say, okay, Shane, that sounds good, but what does that look like? Let me give you a real life example that happened to me. When I was about 16, I got this job at a burger joint, flipping burgers, and then I graduated up to the fryer, and I was working the fryer. And so one night I was on the fryer and I was working along, and I pulled out this chicken patty and I turned over to put it out on the tray, and it came out and it fell on the floor. And so I grabbed it and I threw it in the trash can. Well, I didn't know that the manager was watching, back behind me, watching me, until he said to me, hey, don't do that. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll be more careful. And he said, no. I mean, don't throw that away. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, just get it and put it back in the fryer. And I thought, okay, well, I do have some personal standards here, but okay, whatever. And so I continued on, and he said, no. I mean, get that out of the trash and put it into the fryer. The oil will cook all of the stuff off. And I stood there as a 16-year-old kid looking at this guy, and I finally said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. So he did. And then he took it out of the fryer, and he put it over where I was trying to put it, wrapped it up into the sandwich, and handed it to me and said, go give it to those people. And I stood there looking at this grown man who was the manager of the store, and I just said, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to do that either. Well, needless to say, I didn't work there any longer. And so, of course, I was a little afraid to go home and tell my parents that my job had ended. May have just lost this, didn't I? That's probably me. There you go. Sorry for the noise. I don't know what in the world that is, but usually when they let me deal with this stuff, that's what happens, right? So I don't know if online you heard that. It was really loud. I just thought it was raining again is what was happening. So in fact, let's just pause right now. Can we just pause and say thank you to all of the technical people that make everything work? Would y'all just tell them thanks? Look, there are people in the booth. There are people in the booth, there are people in the production studio, there are people making this stuff happen. And man, what a great group of volunteers that make all this happen. So thank you guys. I'm sure that was me. So let's move on. So I'm in the middle of this story and of this chicken thing falling off, and this guy saying, and so I lost my job because I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to serve that. And so I was a little afraid to go home and say, hey, I lost my job. Honestly, if I could just be real, I was a little afraid to tell my dad I'd lost my job. And I ended up telling him, and of course he wasn't happy that I didn't have a job, but he didn't remind me of what I already knew. Instead, he loaned me his strength. That's why I still remember this story so clearly. He didn't bail me out. Because had he bailed me out, that would have been a reminder of my weakness. In fact, he didn't say, hey, Shane, I'll make a few calls and get you another job, meaning, Shane, you can't do anything right, including how to handle a difficult boss. Instead, he took the posture that I've tried to take with my kids and just said, oh, no. In fact, can I just tell you, parents, that is a great habit to get into no matter what happens or when your kids get in trouble. Just go, oh, no. That's too bad. I'm sorry you don't have a job anymore. And that's it. And he just said, I'm sure you'll find another job. And then he left it up to me to try to figure it out. He honored me by assuming that I was smart enough and responsible enough to figure it out. He sided with me, not against me. And let me tell you, this is a big deal. And so let me just throw this out there. Parents, never announce punishment ahead of time to your kids. Like, if you do that, this is going to be the punishment. Never announce the punishment ahead of time, because that's actually siding against your kids. And do you know what that communicates? It communicates to your kids that not only do you have the potential to mess up, but I'm actually anticipating you messing up. I'm actually prepared for you to blow it, and here's what's going to happen when you break this rule. Look, don't threaten. Just expect the best. And then act shocked when they mess up. Like, oh no, I didn't see this coming. That's terrible. Now you're gonna have to face the consequences. I hate that for you. Take their side. Then honor them by allowing them to carry the full weight of their consequences. One more thing on this. As your kids get older and they mess up, break a rule, do you know what the first thing they want to know? What are you going to do about it? Right? That's what they want. That's the first thing. What's the punishment? Parents, act unprepared. Say, I don't know. I'm just so surprised by this behavior. I just never thought you would, whatever it is. And then just leave them hanging. See, look, when your kids are young, you got to kind of connect the dots pretty quickly. But parents, listen, by the time your kids are 4 or 5 years old, just start dragging this thing out. And the point here is simply this, that you side with them before you discipline them. You know why? Because that's exactly what God did for you. I mean, think about this. If you're a Jesus follower, you've probably heard this said, that while you were still a sinner, what did God do? He said, what? You're a sinner? And he sided with you and died for you. He loaned you his strength. In fact, he did for you what you could not do for yourself. So, quick question before we move on. Parents, what is your go-to response to your kids' weaknesses or failures? What is your natural reaction? Think through that. What is it that I do? What do you say? Do they feel as if you side with them or that you side against them? Love is patient, but love is kind. So as we move on, here's what Paul says next. He says this, that love does not envy, love does not boast, and love is not proud. Now, I put all three of those things together because they communicate one really important idea, especially when it comes to parenting. Here's what they communicate. That love allows the other person to shine. Right? Love isn't threatened by someone else's success. Love actually fully celebrates that success. See, here's what gets in the way in so many families. Is that if you don't feel good about yourself, you end up having a really hard time allowing your children to feel good about themselves. And when you hear me say that, you think, Shane, that's not really true. But think about this. If this is true of you, you're going to have a difficult time celebrating your kids' successes without pointing out something they could have done better or should have done better or they should consider next time. And let me just tell you, if that's your habit as a parent, every time they succeed or get an award or just do anything good, you find yourself going right into coach mode instead of just being able to celebrate. Do you know where I learned this more than any other place? Was with my kids playing sports. Because my son would come off of the court. My son would come off of the field. My daughter would come in from the meet. And in sports, we would talk through how it went and what they could do better. And every single time, I found myself sliding into coach mode with my kids. One day realizing I'm never celebrating what they did great. So I came up with a new idea that I needed to do for the health of our relationship with my kids. And the idea was this: it didn't matter what they did wrong on the court or the field. Can I tell you, they already knew. I didn't need to point it out. In fact, those words weighed 500 pounds when I did. I came up with a new way to say it. When they would say, Dad, did you see me? I missed that one. And the reason they would go right to that is because that's where I would normally go to. My new method there was to begin to celebrate. And here's how I celebrated. Dad, did you see that I missed both of those free throws? Yeah, I did some, but you know what? I just love watching you play. I just love being in the stands and you being out on the court. I love watching you do that. And I quit talking about all the negatives. They had coaches for that. They knew themselves. They needed to hear their dad celebrate the fact that they were out there trying. And it changed, no pun intended, it changed the game. And today, I love seeing my kids play sports. In fact, I've been able to find what grandparents find when they come watch their grandkids play. They can find the humor and the celebration in it where parents have a hard time with that. And it was one simple change that I'm not going to point out everything they did wrong. I'm not their coach. I'm their parent, and I'm to celebrate their success. Now, let me tell you where this dynamic ends up playing out. It's in the area of sarcasm. And let me just tell you, there is no place for sarcasm between a parent and a child. And generally, the parent starts it, right? I mean, this is true regardless of the age of your kids. Just eliminate sarcasm. And here's why. Your words weigh too much. Your words cut too deep. Sarcasm is for you and your buddies. But you and your children are not buddies. And here's the thing. You as a parent will always win the sarcasm contest. But love never tries to win. And when you say, oh, I was just kidding, oh, I was just playing, let me just tell you, that is a waste of breath because the damage is done and it was unkind for you to say it, even if you excuse it by saying, I was just kidding. Now, look at what the Apostle Paul says, because here we come back to one of the 3 rules in our home and why honor was at the top of the list. Look at this next verse. That love does not dishonor others. And in the families that Julie and I have been most impressed with, there was this culture of mutual respect. They honored one another. In fact, I love this word. Here's what they actually did, is they actually deferred to one another. Right? There was no tolerance for dishonor or disrespect, like none. I mean, honest, intense conversation, absolutely, but not disrespect. And here's why it's so important. Because honor is superior to obedience. But we often get this backwards. If your goal raising your kids is simply obedience, you're selling your kids short. When there's a lack of honor, you can't even have enough rules, right? If you don't have a culture of honor in your home, look, you know this, it's exhausting when you don't have it because it becomes this game of catch me if you can. Like you said to be home by 9, but you never said 9 p.m. Right? But it doesn't have to be that way. Obedience is really an answer to the question, what's the least I can do without getting in trouble? I mean, that's what obedience is. And you know this. Obedience isn't at the heart of every great relationship. It's not. Honor is always at the heart of every great relationship. Obedience is just saying, can I find a loophole? Can I find a workaround? But there are no loopholes. There are no workarounds when it comes to honor. Learning how to honor another person doesn't come naturally. And it actually is at the bullseye. It hits the bullseye of our self-centeredness. Why? See, honor demands that we put someone else ahead of ourselves. And why would we do that? Because as a Jesus follower, you are celebrating the fact that God put you first when he allowed his son to feel the full weight of your sin. So look, parents, model it, teach it, expect it, and look for ways to build this honoring behavior into the rhythm of your family life. And parents, look, you know this, but I'll say it anyway. It begins with you and the way you treat and honor each other. So Paul's just spot on, and he moves on, and here's what he says. He says, be devoted to one another in love. Say, well, okay, well, how do you do it, Paul? Paul says, simple. You honor one another above yourselves. See, healthy marriages are always about mutual submission. In other words, you put the other person first. A healthy marriage, get this, it's simply a race to be at the back of the line. Any competition in that relationship results with a winner and a loser. And look, if your spouse loses, you really haven't won anything, have you? Now, we'll get back to Paul's love handles next time, but before we kind of put a bow on this thing this morning, I just want to get incredibly practical. That if you choose, and let me tell you, I hope you will. If you choose kindness and honor for your home, then any behavior that is dishonoring requires disciplining. Now, in our family, dishonor was anything that was dishonest, disrespectful, or disobedient. Let me say that again. That dishonoring was anything that was dishonest, disrespectful, or disobedient. And we disciplined for those things. Now, childish behavior, that's different. We corrected for childish behavior, but we disciplined for dishonesty and disrespect and disobedience. So if you choose kindness and honor for your family, then any behavior that is dishonoring requires discipline. You can't ignore it. In fact, ignoring it rewards it. Look, you already know this, that what gets rewarded is repeated. I mean, you know that's true. So if you want to raise dishonest, disrespectful kids, just ignore honor. And that's really all it takes, because nature will take over from there. But if you don't want dishonest, disrespectful kids, you have to discipline for it. But here's the thing. For discipline to be effective, it has to directly address the fact that a relationship has been damaged. In fact, maybe a question will help explain that just a little bit. Think about it this way. If dishonoring behavior breaks the relationship, remember like what we're talking about? Remember, I don't want you to lie because lying breaks a relationship. So if dishonoring behavior breaks a relationship, what should be the goal of our discipline? If the fundamental problem with dishonesty, disrespect, or disobedience is that it breaks trust, what should the goal of our discipline be? And look, if there's not really a goal in your discipline, then it's not discipline at all. It's just punishment. Because discipline actually makes a person better. That's why we all wished we were more disciplined. We don't ever say, I wished I was more punished. I wished I was more disciplined. Punishment rarely makes anybody better. It just makes people more careful that they don't get caught the next time. And here's why. Because the message of punishment is this, is that if you don't obey me, bad things are going to happen to you. And when you think about punishment going on in many homes, assuming it's going on, it's typically rarely anything less than just a payback. Like you did something bad, so I'm going to do something bad to you. You inconvenienced me, you embarrassed me, so I'm going to inconvenience and embarrass you. That's not a goal. What should the goal of our discipline be? And the answer is simply this: restoration of the relationship. If disobedience, disrespect, and dishonesty damage the relationship, get this, here comes the takeaway, that discipline should facilitate restoring the relationship. So discipline your kids toward relationship restoration. And let me just tell you, the sooner you start, the better, but it's never too late. But the sooner you start, the better, because relationship restoration is something we have to be taught. We don't come into the world knowing how to do that. I mean, let's face it. You know some adults that have never figured that out. I mean, perhaps you've never figured that out. In fact, if you've ever said, I don't know why you're still so upset. I said I was sorry, or anything like that, then perhaps you've never learned the art of restoring a relationship. And if you're sitting here thinking, doesn't saying sorry actually restore the relationship? Doesn't saying sorry kind of get us back to where we were? No. In fact, in some cases, simply saying sorry is just insulting. And it communicates you know something must be wrong with you if you're still not okay after I said I was sorry. And the fact that so many parents don't get this explains, honestly, why so many parents have ineffective discipline going on in their homes. Because they punish as a standalone event, and there's no goal, and there's no lasting outcome, and nobody gets better because of it. There's just so little creativity in parental disciplining, and parents just take things away. And maybe that's your habit right now. You put your kids in timeout. When they're older, you put them on a restriction. You ground them. None of which has anything to do with restoring a broken relationship. Well, Jimmy backtalked me, so I took the PlayStation away for a week. Really? Well, how's their relationship going? Well, he hates me. Of course he does. Taking stuff away should be a last resort because nobody learns anything. They just try harder not to get caught the next time. Now look, if you're kind of tracking along with me, you may be thinking, and I hope you are thinking, okay, Shane, I get it, but how? How do you do this? Here's what you need to know as a parent. Here's what your kids need to know. And you need to understand this in your marriage as well. In fact, this is important in every relationship. That at the core of every wrongdoing is a damaged relationship. You got to get this in your relationships. You got to get this in your marriage. You got to get this between you and your kids, that at the core of every wrongdoing, there is damage that has happened to a relationship. At the heart of any act of dishonesty or disrespect, at the core of every wrongdoing, something hasn't just happened. At the core of what happened is a damaged relationship. And because of that, discipline must in some way restore that relationship. Otherwise, it's not discipline, it's just behavioral modification. See, discipline is an art of just building that bridge back to someone, especially if you participated in tearing it down to begin with. My guess is you taught your kids to apologize. I mean, I certainly hope you did. And an apology is part of mending a relationship. But parents, require your kids to apologize in complete sentences. Sorry is not a complete sentence. Sorry is actually a sorry excuse for an apology. They've got to own it. So you need to give them a pronoun to go with it. I'm sorry. They've got to own it. And here's the thing, our kids have got to understand, regardless of how old they are, that when they are dishonest, when they are disrespectful, they have actually taken something away from the other person. When you take something away from someone else, you owe them something, which is why in our language we say, you owe them an apology. But in most cases, we owe them more than an apology. And so here's what I would suggest, and look, if you don't like this, it's okay. You can just come up with your own, and that's good too. Teach them to say, I'm sorry, and then they need to explain what it is that they're sorry for. And you gotta make them say it so that they can own it. I'm sorry I disobeyed you. I'm sorry I kicked my brother in the teeth. I'm sorry I came home late. I'm sorry I didn't answer when you called. And then add this to the end of the sentence. Is there anything I can do to make it up to you? Now, let me just warn you, parents, they are gonna hate this part. They're gonna hate it. But I'm telling you, this is how you help your kids understand that they took something, so they owe something. And when you teach them to think like that, you are laying the groundwork for restoration and restitution inside relationships. So look, you can do this. Do you know where I learned that? That concept that I just shared with you,
is at the center of our faith as Jesus followers. For all have sinned, and we broke our relationship with God. And what did God do? Punish us? No, he didn't have to. Because parents, you'll discover eventually, as we all do, that sin has a built-in wage with it. Sin has a built-in payment plan. All sin comes prepackaged with consequence. So instead, what did God do? He made the first move to restore us to him. And then he sent us out into this broken world to restore our broken relationships with the ones that we broke. See, we broke them through our dishonesty and our disrespect. The relationships that we damaged, we did it with our impatience and our lack of kindness and our dishonoring responses and behavior. And God, our Heavenly Father, has given us the responsibility of teaching our kids how to restore their broken relationship as well. So loan them your strength. Parents, stop with the sarcasm. Discipline towards relationship restoration. And do you know what that's called? Good parenting. And you know how we know that? That's because what our heavenly, get this, Father did for you. And let me just tell you, we'll pick up with our final piece right there in Picture Perfect. Let me pray. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for what you've taught us by the way you've treated us. God, today there's a whole lot of heavy parenting skills here. God, would you help us? Would you help us to look at what you've done to us, to what you've done for us, to how you've treated us, how you've loved us and shown honor to us. And God, would you help us to, in turn, do that same thing in our homes, with our families, specifically with our kids. But God, would you help us to do this in a great way in every relationship? Father, we're grateful for what you gave in this new command to love others as you've loved us. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Wow, what a good message. I know that message had so much information. There were so many really good points. And my hope and prayer for you today is that you will take little bits of that message and that you will implement them into your parenting, into your relationships, and into your life. You know what? We have what we call next steps at Rock Point. And whether your next step is giving or sharing a prayer request, joining a group, it doesn't matter. We just want you to take your next step. So you can scan the QR code and let us know what your next step is. And you know, one next step might be downloading the Parenting Q app. And you know what? That is the app that we've talked about during the message, and we have shared a little bit about it. It is a great app. It gives you daily reminders for things to do with your kids. There's tons of information in there. And you know what? It has been a huge resource for me and for my family, and I hope it is for you as well. You know what? I want to say have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.